As per Sri Lankan media reports, President Rajapaksa has resigned. Big breaking news coming in. After much ado, you have the resignation now coming through of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Remember, Mr. Rajapaksa has been hopping countries. He was in Maldives, and the latest, last we checked, he was en route Singapore. Now we have received information that the president has officially resigned, something that Sri Lankans were demanding for a very long time, to the extent that the presidential palace was actually trespassed. People barged into the presidential palace demanding the removal of Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The president left the country in an Air Force helicopter, and he moved to Maldives first. Later, we get to know that he and his family has moved to Singapore. Information now coming in that Gotabaya Rajapaksa has officially resigned. Let me go across to Defence and Security Analyst joining us here on the program, Mr. Maruf Reza. Good evening, Maruf. Can you explain to us, what you make of this? The fact that Mr. Rajapaksa actually decided to first leave the country, and then at a comfortable place of his choosing, he has decided to resign.
You see, the Rajapaksa family, amongst some of the other people, are the primary culprits for the mess that is in Sri Lanka. And the people had already decided that they would not be spared. They have targeted all the symbols and citadels of Sri Lanka's modern democracy: the presidential palace, prime minister's office, the secretariat, everything else. The reason why Mr. Rajapaksa chose to first flee the country and then resign, as against sticking to his earlier suggestion that he would resign on 13th of July, which was meant to be an important day in the Buddhist calendar, was because till he fled the country, he still enjoyed the authority as the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. So therefore, he would not be put under arrest as per constitutional norms. His elder brother, who was earlier the president and then prime minister, had resigned earlier, but has been stopped from fleeing the country. So therefore, Mr. Rajapaksa, now former president and ex-colonel of the army, took the benefit of constitutional cover to flee the country, and I believe he has some kind of dual nationality abroad. So therefore, has taken all the wealth and gone and perched himself like some other notorious leaders of many third world countries who have done so in the past.
Yes, Maruf, what do you envisage for the future of Sri Lanka from here on? Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe is supposedly still in charge. There's a demand for him to step down as well. What happens from here on?
See, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe is a far better person than the Rajapaksas, who in the last 15 years have juiced the country dry. Mr. Wickremesinghe has earlier been Prime Minister, was seen to be responsible for swinging a good IMF bailout for Sri Lanka in the past. But the most recent and current mess, the blame has to lie on President Gotabaya's feet and his brother, the earlier president, Mr. Rajapaksa.
Mahinda
Rajapaksa. Now, as far as Mr. Wickremesinghe is concerned, I still think he is a good choice for president. He is currently discredited because the presidential order had taken him as an interim prime minister after the elder brother of the president had resigned. And more recently, the charge of presidentship was handed over to him by outgoing President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Mr. Wickremesinghe long nurtured the ambition to be president of Sri Lanka. So let us see if the coalition elects him. He's an experienced politician. Right now, doesn't have a kind of political following. But what the hell? I mean, political following has shown that you become president to cheat and flee the country, as has been the case with Gotabaya, who got a massive mandate of the people. So I really am not a great sucker for this mandate of the people argument. I think countries that still have an evolving experiment in democracy, and Sri Lanka is a case in point, should rather go in for a structured system with donors and well-meaning countries putting together a system where the country functions effectively so the world can bail it out. Just
Yes.
by having a voter-centric democracy, you get the mess that you are seeing in Sri Lanka.
Yes. Maruf, thank you so much for joining us. Can the world bail out Sri Lanka? This time around remains to be seen. The country continues to remain in a state of flux with governance in limbo and people still milling around the official residences of the Prime Minister and the President. We'll keep track of the latest here on the channel.